Let's go back to this idea of what happens from this. I'm guessing that this is not all that unexpected for you. And I guess one question I have, if these states are showing much worse levels in terms of positivity rating and showing that there are potential outbreaks, were we wrong to have a national policy where we actually shut down the entire country at the same time?
No, I don't believe we're going to shut down again. And this is going to be the new normal, where we're going to have these rolling outbreaks throughout the country, and we're going to have to take targeted action.
I'm not talking about shutting down the entire country again. Should we have shut down the hotspots before, let other areas kind of go about their business until the outbreak hit them too, and then shut them down, more like a rolling shutdown instead of shutting everybody down at once? Or did we do the right thing by shutting down nationally and preventing the spread?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question people are going to be asking for a long time. Could we have targeted the shutdown better to the hotspots? The problem was we didn't really know where the hotspots were when we were going through this during the first wave. We had no testing, and so we didn't know where this was going to evolve to. We had major epidemics underway in some very large cities. I think people overestimate how much the national shutdown was really driven by policymakers. The shutting down of social and economic interactions was driven by people's fear and worry. If we hadn't shut down by the time we reached 3,000 deaths a day, we would have. And that's what happened in the UK. They didn't initially shut down, and then they were driven to shut down. The White House and governors did not shut down the NBA. The NBA shut down the NBA because they were reacting to what was happening and what was happening to fans and people. And so that's what's happening now in reverse, really. People are driving the reopening because they're tired of the shutdown, and so they're forcing policymakers to reopen the economy. Most states didn't really achieve the criteria set out by public health officials for reopening, or the White House, yet they reopened because the people demanded it. And so I think a lot of this has been driven by consumers, by school districts, by businesses that took these actions on their own, and ultimately policymakers fit policy to what was happening across the country.
Right. But Doctor, let me just ask you about that, which is, can I just follow up on this, which is, could have you seen, sorry, I apologize. Could have you seen a scenario where, for example, you shut down flights, but you didn't shut down huge parts of the country? Meaning, you look at a hotspot like New York, part of the issue was people were continuing to fly in and out of New York the entire time. And for some reason, we decided to keep the airlines up and running for the entirety of it. If flights had been shuttered, wouldn't it have changed the entire dynamic? I've heard a number of health officials make that suggestion.
Look, there were discussions about shutting the flights. I thought it would have been a bad idea because the volume collapsed on the flights immediately. The volume collapsed, and it continued to collapse. I think you needed to maintain some element of travel because it's a source of liberty in this country. To shut down travel completely would have denied people who truly need to travel for family emergencies, for compelling personal reasons. It would have denied them the opportunity. By and large, people stopped moving around in this country. I'm not sure that intervening to try to block transportation would have cut down on interstate travel anymore. I mean, it was inevitable that some of these interventions, when policymakers put them in place, were going to rub some people the wrong way, and we were going to overreach in certain elements of what we did. But by and large, what we were doing was mirroring what was going on in private industry, in local districts. I mean, the local communities are the ones who made the decisions to close the schools, by and large. I will say, I think this is going to, though, be debated for a while. Could we have targeted this to the regions that were truly hot? And my answer to that would just be, we didn't know what regions were hot. We really didn't. We were flying blind in February, March. We take for granted how much capacity we have right now to do testing and interventions. We did not have that in February and March when we were going through this.
Will we be better prepared if there is a resurgence in the fall, a serious resurgence? You think we'll be better prepared to identify that and then have the ability to do localized shutdowns? Or do you think, based on what the White House was saying yesterday, that we can't shut down again, that we won't see any shutdowns anywhere?
Well, I think the White House and others need to change the lexicon a little bit. We're going to be much better prepared to identify outbreaks, as we are now. We're identifying outbreaks that probably in February would have evaded our attention. These are community outbreaks. Hospitalizations aren't up substantially. And so we need to be prepared to take targeted interventions. And so an example would be in Houston. Should bars be open at full capacity or near full capacity in Houston right now, or do you close them for a week? Maybe, maybe not. You have to determine whether or not that's the source of the spread first. We have the capacity to do that. We shouldn't view targeted interventions as a sort of a step backwards or as a shutdown again. We're going to have to be willing to take these sort of targeted measures in isolated cities as outbreaks occur and not view that as somehow a defeat. That's basically going to be life as we know it until we get to a vaccine. And we just need to have the fortitude to do it and not view it as another shutdown. We're not going to go to a simultaneous national shutdown again, even if I think this becomes epidemic. I don't think there's the political will to do that. And I don't think the American people would want that or demand it. But I think you're going to see targeted interventions at a local level. I think people are going to demand it in their local communities as outbreaks occur. And I think governors and others need to be willing to fit that into a policy framework without viewing it as somehow a defeat against the virus.